All right, just to confirm for my listeners who I got on the phone here, it's the one and only DJ Tranzit. Is it you, sir?
Yes, sir.
AKA Mr. Paul Michael, to those who might know him through social media. A big presence in our jungle scene, and we will get into that. But first, I'd like to start with some questions, get to know you a little. Is that okay?
Yeah, man.
Awesome. And I'm going to let you know, I got a picture of you up right now. I love it. It's you and with some graffiti in the background. You know the picture of you, you're sitting up against a wall, kind of in a business casual suit with a bunch of fish graffiti. And do you know the picture I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. There's a couple.
My question was going to be, where is that? Where is all that painting?
Oh, that's it's Graffiti Alley, Toronto. It's just a little bit south of Queen.
It's like Queen in Portland, isn't it?
Yeah, about that area. It's it's like between Richmond and Queen. There's kind of an alleyway, and it's been Graffiti Alley for long as I can remember it, anyways.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Toronto once a year will have a big event where people from all around the world will come and they paint over these sections with fresh graffiti every year. And some of the artwork is unbelievable. So and I don't think it's on the tourist attraction. Like if you're not really known to Toronto, you may not see it. You may skip over it. So it's worth checking out. There's a lot of beautiful art down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've got friends that roll through the city all the time. A lot of friends from the States, and whenever they come up, especially in the summertime, anyways, try to get them out, go for a walk, and head down Queen, because it's one of those things where you've got some of the best stuff right at your fingertips, but you completely forget about it, or you walk right by it because you're so focused on your destination, you kind of forget to stop and look around, I guess, right?
Oh, totally.
So I try to walk people down Queen, and they pop into a couple of shops and slide down Graffiti Alley, and everyone knows it's there, but they kind of forget that it's there, right? Because it's so easy to miss.
It's the hyper stimulation and saturation of Toronto. I get you. It's like, especially now, you go. I used to tell people, if you ever want to know which way south is, just look for the CN Tower, and typically that's south. But now, you look for the CN Tower, and it's like this little needle sticking up amongst all these other skyscrapers. You can't even really see it. But, okay, with that, moving along, I want to ask you something. What was the first album that you ever purchased with your own money?
Oh, geez. I think back when it was at the advent of CDs, that probably would have been it. I'm pretty sure it was Counting Crows.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was right in that era. If it wasn't Counting Crows, that was one of the first two or three, anyways.
That's it. You know what, I've said it many times, but this goes up the line of what you just said. My first album was Hootie and the Blowfish. So
yeah, that was right in the same era.
Right, same. It was, and mine was a cassette tape. I remember it getting ruined in the tape. Remember when the tape thing would eat your tape?
Yep.
Fuck that.
Oh, you're dating us now, man.
All right. What was the first concert you ever attended? Do you remember?
Yep. It was who was opening for them now? I can't remember, but it was Korn, which is wildly different than who I am today. But I was dating some girl when I was 14 or 15 or somewhere in that era, and you'd never take her as like, I don't know, the Korn was they were pretty popular at that time, even kind of mainstream, and I remember going to that.
Well,
I wasn't into it at all. I had no interest in the music. I was just interested in her. That's why I went, right? But then afterwards, I was like, hey, it's actually kind of not bad. I think I ended up buying one or two of the albums later.
Well, Korn, to be honest, if I'm getting my dates right, when you were about 14, 15, that's probably the Follow the Leader album, and that's the time that they came down Toronto in the tank. They came on Queen Street with the big tank, and I think they played at Arrow Hall.
I went to the Arrow Hall one.
Yeah, I remember that, buddy. It's 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago now, but
yeah, give or take, right?
You know what? I remember we actually got to meet Fieldy during that concert because he was in Mr. Sub when we went in. And he was just sitting there eating the sub.
He was the bassist or whatever, wasn't he?
Yeah, the bass player played it like a cello. He slaps it, 7th string bass or whatever. But they're on. I had the pleasure of interviewing Brian Head from Korn a couple of years ago, who's very religious and pious, and they had actually just opened a orphanage, him and Fieldy, in Budapest. So,
oh, no way.
Yeah, those guys do a lot of charity work. As much as their music sounds mean, they are hearts. They did a prayer. I unfortunately wasn't a part of their circle, but if you get into their like book, if you will, and you're backstage before they go on, they do a little circle with the stage manager, any fans that may be at the side of the stage, any of the media, and you can get in the circle with them. Everybody holds hands and they say a prayer before they perform.
Wow, that's crazy. It's like it's interesting. You dissect that, and the presence that these people have on stage is very, very different than who they really are as people, right?
Totally. Well, and especially as they've grown, Paul. That's another thing. They've aged and grown and matured, right?
Well, of course, right? But like you look at there's so many examples of that where you look at like Manson and what he stands for, the things that he does, he tries to do, and the humanitarian efforts that he goes after. His view on society is very different than his music per se, right? And I think that probably goes with anyone that has a celebrity persona to them.
I think it's important to separate the artist from the art, the individual as well as the artist, I guess.
Sure.
Like this goes kind of twisted, but I love Woody Allen films. I don't necessarily like the guy, and it can go vice versa, where it's like, you know what, I really like this guy, but I don't like his art. And there's definitely, like Marilyn Manson, I'd say recently, I loved his early stuff, but I don't really like what he's been putting out. But I still, yes, deeply respect who he is as a human being.
Sure.
But okay, let me ask you this, Paul. What was your first rave experience? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was like first event I attended.
Yeah, what was your first ever experience with the lights and the music and the extracurriculars?
So it was a delirium party at the News.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So at the time, I would have been, I think, 15, maybe. I remember it was in the summer. It was around this time, it was like late August or something, and I was working at a sound shop. It was a place in Ajax, years and years back, and I was like, living the dream. And as far as I was concerned, as a 15-year-old, I'm working at a DJ shop. I was super interested in all that kind of stuff. And one of the other guys there was like an old sound guy. He was doing sound for a lot of the different raves, Destiny Fridays, and he kind of was the main guy behind a lot of the Citrus parties. It wasn't Dean like Citrus, but he was the guy that did all the sound for them, kind of organized all that stuff, took care of a lot of technical details. So I always bought a bag of, hey man, come on, take me along, right? Because I wanted to be a part of this. And he's like, fuck off, kid. You're more of a liability than you'll ever be a help. You got to prove yourself. So I went to another guy. Guy's name's Barry Booth. He owns System Music Warehouse in Pickering, and at the time he owned Delirium. I guess he still does. If I'm not mistaken, Marcus and a guy named Johnny Blue, I think, started Delirium. Like, this would have been probably 30 years ago now. Well, maybe not. Yeah, maybe.
25.
30.
I think they started in 94.
Was it 94? Okay, yeah. So.
Correct me if I'm wrong, listeners.
Oh, I honestly don't know. Well, that would be a question for Marcus. But, yeah, so they had it, and then I guess Barry bought it off them, or I don't know what the politics were there. But I basically did a party with life. I came in and helped them, slug speakers in out of, cargo vans and, moving vans and stuff. And I just remember looking at this wall of sound going, oh my God, like, it's insane. It must have been about 3,000 or 4,000 people in there at some point. But, as a 15-year-old, I was completely blown away. I had no idea what I was walking into. I just knew that I was going to like it. And, I started working that day, Saturday morning at like 10 a.m. or something, loading vans with, Vega JEs, L36s, and moving them in and out. So you stay up all night, and you run around a party, and, come 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was when it shut down, we slug all the stuff back into vans, bring it all back to Pickering. And I remember my dad picked me up. And I hadn't slept in, 30 hours or something at this point. And I get home I have dinner and then I just like broke down because like my body was exhausted. I've been out forever. I just had like one of the craziest experiences of my life, and he was like, "Yeah, that's the last rave you're ever gonna go to," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know about that." So that was kind of the start of the like falling out with my father, I think.
Well, we won't dig too deep into that.
Sounds like such a terrible thing to fall out of your parents with over, but there are other factors there.
I find it interesting that your first experience was more on, I guess, the sound system aspect of things. You didn't go because you knew jungle or because you wanted to go to a rave. It was because you worked for a sound system place and you wanted to be a part of the background, I guess.
Yeah, it was 50-50 though, right? Like I knew of raves, and there was no way in hell my dad was going to let me go over all night to quote unquote drug fueled party, right? There's no way that was ever going to happen. So I ran two choices. I could either try and slide in the back way, but say, oh yeah, I'm working, which is ultimately what I did, or I could pull the same card that almost every other kid pulled. They're like, oh yeah, I'm staying at like Dave's place tonight. And Dave's like, yeah, I'm staying at Paul's place tonight. And, you take off to the city and you go partying. But God help me if I ever got caught doing that. So.
Well, if they're listening, they'll know now.
What's that?
I said if they're listening, they're going to know now.
Well,
I'm sure your parents are tuned in.
Yeah, you never know. My mom might listen. I think she already knows most of it.
Oh, that's cute. And I think, yeah, you did do a common thing, which is, hey, I'm staying at your place, you're staying at mine. Let's go.
Yeah, everyone did that at some point in their life.
I remember we got screwed one time doing that because we did it. We went down to Sunshine Wayne's, and then none of us remembered that the streetcars will stop running. And what happened was we got on the streetcar, I remember, at Spadina, and it took us into Spadina Station, and the subways were all closed. So the streetcar didn't stop. It just went into the station and came right back. And we were like, hey, man, stop. We got to take the subway. And he's like, what do you mean? We don't stop here. And we're like, what? How do we get back home? He's like, you're going to have to take a blue night. And we're like, what's that? And we were all like 12, 13 years old. And yeah, we ended up getting stuck downtown for like 6 hours until the train started running because none of us wanted. We went to a park, I remember, and some of us were able to sleep in the park. But yeah, those are the days of the early rave, I guess, and our ignorance as children. Okay, let me ask you this, because
you learned quick, though.
What's that? Yeah, you learned quick. You learned. You're talking about coming with a sound system background, and I think it's a very important aspect of our culture that's somewhat been lost. What do you think about that? Do you think that sound system is important for jungle music, and do you think it's getting the proper attention in our culture today?
Absolutely. Like, sound system culture has been lost for a good decade or two, but you were around those days. Like, you remember going out, and there's just this bloody 20-foot wall of sound, and you can't even get close to it without your diaphragm being compressed, right? And you're just like, yeah, this is so fucking cool, right? And you don't have that anymore. Now you just have these loud, honking, obnoxious speakers, and everything's being driven to its absolute limit. What happened to that? But when you turn around, you think about, like, what are some of the best parties we've had in Toronto in the last 5 years, right? Like, the best real parties where, like, things were good and it felt like the old days. All of those parties were all, dub rock sound system or 40 hertz system, or, the guy, like, there's a couple guys or the crews out there, they're still pushing that, but it's hard. It's got to be hard to do it because, for them to bring their sound system out, what's that cost them? They gotta be able to cover their costs and, make a couple dollars so they can, keep investing in that system. But then you've got a party, and when you're only charging $10 or $15 a head, you still got to pay your DJ, you still got to, rent the hall or the venue, and that, $500 or $1,000 or $1,500 that's going to the sound system, that really easily could be the difference between losing a ton of money on your party and actually making a couple bucks. So a lot of people try and cut that corner. So they're just like, oh, screw it, I'll just throw an event at this shitty bar or this shitty club or whatever, and you just hope that the sound system's working, right?
Right.
So like, you know, when guys like Compound and stuff are bringing out these real sound systems, it adds something to the party. There's just like another level of complexity. It's another experience that really adds, and you know, that's what creates that vibe of people going, yeah, man, that was a good event. Like, I had a good time last night, as opposed to, yeah, it was cool.
No, I agree with you, and I got a sidebar for a moment to promote my event. On September the 28th, we're going to have John B., Lion Dub, and Ryan Ruckus at One Loft for $20. Get your tickets, you and me, D&B, at Outlook.com. And we've just added PK Sound to the bill. So they've got a complex array of different speakers and an awesome sound engineer that's going to be coming down with them. And we do appreciate that jungle music should be played on a proper sound system. So we've made sure to fork out a couple extra bucks. And like Paul said, it's not easy because we don't have big overhead. I guess there's not room to make much money. So when you spend on a sound system, you're really cutting back on the little bit of money you're trying to make. And it could be the make or break difference. Like, you know, you either made $500 or you broke even, and that could be the sound system. So I've had people charge much more too. Like I've heard the Valve sound system, for instance. You're talking tens of thousands to bring that thing over, but people have paid it because they know what they appreciate that, right?
Absolutely. It's like I said, it's one more thing. And even if you have a club like One Loft where, you know, you've got a decent sound system in place, just augmenting that a little bit with a little bit more is going to add that different experience. It's going to give someone, you know, everyone's been to One Loft. You know, we all know it, we all love it in our own ways. And, you know, it's a new place that's starting to provide for, I guess, our community here in Toronto. But if you can augment that a little bit, just change it up just a little, it's going to give everyone a different experience. And let's be honest, you want to hear someone kick down a sound system while Lion Dub's kind of your man, right? So
it's going to be awesome. We cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's going to be a fun night, September 28th. Moving along, I got to ask you, what changes have you noticed in the scene since day one to where we are today?
Day one, as in like back in my days as a teen going out, or?
Yeah, and I don't mean, let's not go through the whole chronological, breakdown, but I'm just saying, like, from the day you start, like, I'll tell you, I myself, one of the things I noticed is the numbers. You know, I used to go out to parties and there was 2,000-3,000 people at these big parties. Now you throw a party that, you know, you bring in someone like a Dillinger that used to bring in 2,000 heads, you get 600-700 and you're lucky. You know, so that's my biggest thing. Like, what would you say is the biggest thing you've noticed over those years?
You know what? Probably attendance has got to be maybe the most important, because if you don't have the attendees, you don't have the money. You don't have the money, you can't do anything, right? Unless you're willing to basically be a charity, and that only lasts for so long. I'm with you, man. Like, I remember the days when you put together an all locals lineup and you could fill the Opera House. 800 people, 850 people at, $20 a head. And people were lining up for that happily. But now, you put that lineup out, you might get 15, right? At $10 a head if you're lucky. The last time I saw a real, legit, like, holy shit, is the party sold out kind of thing in Toronto was, I think the last time ABC rolled through at the Opera House, and that was, 2 years ago or something.
The Randall GQ party.
Oh, okay. Well, see, I didn't do that one. I think I was out of town. But,
it was amazing to look at, though, because it really did bring back some old, because everyone from the old school came out of the woodworks. It was like it brought.
Well, that's the thing, right? A lot of people, like, from our days, everyone's married, got kids, different lives now, and like we didn't have that surge of young kids come in to fill the spots of the people that were leaving. But you can dissect that all you want. There's 100 different reasons. Like attendance. I miss the days of there being like a Better Living Center and you put 5,000 or 8,000 people into a room and you're just, holy shit. You lose your friends, you're screwed, right? You'll never find them again. But everything had its time and place, and I think we just need to be happy that we were there and we enjoyed it, and the people that are still around, we're not here for any other reason outside of we just love the music, and we still love the music, right?
Yeah, it's a labor of love. You know, it's
It really is.
you know, you throw the parties. That's why even with this podcast, you know, I can only do this for so long until I have to say, well, if it's not making money, I can't keep doing this. It's my, you know, I've got to focus on other things, and eventually, hopefully, we can monetize this. But yeah, it's definitely a labor of love. Making the Vivid Mix CDs, I spent tens of thousands of dollars for albums I gave away for free, and once again, it's a labor of love. Jungle music is more than just a music. I've said that. People who listen to it don't just listen to it; they become a part of a culture. And I wouldn't say that is shared in any other genre of music. I can't think of anyone else who dedicates themselves to a genre like junglists do. Do you get me?
Yeah, I agree, disagree. Like, I would say that any culture that's built around music probably has that same following. And you look at jungle, drum and bass, that has a certain following to it, right? It has a certain following where people are very, very passionate about the music. But, you know, look at literally a complete 180 from that. Look at like the punk scene. Those kids aren't making money, right? Those shows are $5 and by
the difference, I would say, hold on, I get what you're saying, but the difference in what I'm saying is that not everyone at a punk show wants to be a part of the punk show. Some of them are just there to listen. Whereas I find with drum and bass, it's like once you become of it, you're either a promoter, you're a DJ, you're an MC, you're somehow helping.
Yeah, sure. I can definitely don't disagree with that. But you know, there are still people that come out. There's a lot of people that come out and they have no aspirations to be a DJ. They just want to come out and dance once in a while. But you are right.
Wouldn't you say that those people though also offer to help flyer? Well, I know those days are gone, but promote. Like, hey, I want to do something to help. I want to be a part of it. That's what I mean. It's more than just I want to come here, listen to music, go home. It's like you become invested in this whole. How can I help it get better? And I'm not saying that like there is something to be said about punk, because I think punk is a very passionate group of people who do love their music, and they are like you can see them in the real world. You know, you see the guy at the bank with the mohawk, for instance. You're like, yeah, it's not what he looks like in his comfortable clothes. But there's
But it's a counterculture, right? That's really how the rave scene started as well.
I missed what you said. What did you say?
So like punk was really, you know, came about as a counterculture.
Yes,
it was basically a group of misfits. You know, part of the pun, I guess, but a bunch of misfits kind of came together and formed their own thing because they didn't fit in anywhere else. Well, what the fuck do you think the rave scene was? It's the same shit, right? It was a bunch of people that didn't really fit in anywhere else. When, hey, we may not all agree, we may not all like the same things, but we don't feel accepted anywhere else. Why don't we just start accepting each other? And that's what happened in the early 90s.
Well, there was hold on. It was also, why don't we take these pills and then start liking each other?
Oh, sure. Like,
I love you, man.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to say that didn't fuel just a little bit of it too.
All that peace, love, unity, and respect jazz, right? But no, I agree with you 100%. It's definitely a counterculture, and I've said that the ravers really are like you've got your hip hop guys, your rockers, your jocks, and then all the different groups. Whatever's left, that's your ravers. The ones that didn't fit into any of those groups. But okay, I want to move on to T.Dot Love. Now, I may be a little ignorant here, so please, enlighten me. T.Dot Love, the brand, I know it as the podcast that you do. Weekly podcast. Yep. You have artists from all around the world, really, come by once a week, and you do a show. But you also have a promotion company. Is that also under the name T.Dot Love, right?
You got it.
Okay, and you are no longer going to be doing parties anymore. Did I read that correctly?
Yeah. That's where you're at, man. 6 years ago, my buddy Mike and I, we've been DJing, or he was emceeing for me back in our hardcore days, and we both kind of shifted towards jungle drum bass, and so be it. But we kind of said, we want to start doing events again. And, Baseline was around. There was another guy that was doing shows once a month, and he decided that he was moving or something was happening. I can't exactly remember, but we got offered an opportunity to do a monthly event there. So we said, fuck it, this is a great opportunity. It's kind of a turnkey bar, and walk in, and it seems like we could build a good thing here. So we did, and we said, look, I guess it comes back to that whole idea of you've got this wealth of incredible talent in Toronto, and we forget that we have guys like Marcus and Lush and RMS and Schematic and all these guys that are putting out world-class music and are realistically world-class DJs. But we forget about that. You take any one of these guys and you put them in any other city in the world and they will crush it. And people will come in droves for them because they're so good. But we forget about that here in Toronto because we're like, oh yeah, well, we want to see Andy C or we want to see this. So what happened? All these locals are kind of getting screwed by giving them hour sets. What happened? So we thought, okay, what happens if you take a guy like Lush and give him 2 hours or give him even 3 hours and just let him roll, just see where he goes with it, right? And that was the thing. We took some of these stalwarts of the scene, gave them longer sets, and we always kind of framed the party 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12 for up-and-coming DJs. We gave ourselves slots in there, and then we give that 12 to 1:30 or 12 to 2 slot to one of the guys that could go and say, fuck it, I'm going to dig back 15 years in my crates and pull out some cool shit. And then we always kind of had that last set, the 1:30 to 3 or 2 to 3. And if people stuck around, we just kind of kept rolling. And, I think there was one night we went till 5 in the morning at Baseline. God bless Craig for letting us do it. But, and that kind of became the more interesting set, right? Because it was that idea of how do I keep people dancing? How do I keep people in the club? Let's see if I can do it. Last call was an hour ago. All the alcohol is dried up. There's no reason for anyone to be here except to dance. And, people stuck around. It was an interesting concept. We did it. We did it for 6 years. Mike dropped out, unfortunately, in January of this year. And, I've been looking at it for the last couple months going, my heart's not fully in it anymore. And maybe it's time to just kind of hang it up for a while and, pursue other avenues. But we'll keep the podcast going, per se, and we'll keep the live stream going, at least for the foreseeable future. And, you never know. Maybe another event will be on the horizon. I don't know. We'll see.
Only the future will tell us, and that is T.Dot Love. I'll have a link below for that, so people, if you want to watch, like I say, every week. Is it a specific day, Paul, or is?
Yeah, man. Every Wednesday, 8 p.m.
Okay.
Facebook Live, facebook.com/T.LoveDNB. And the last event is this Friday coming up, the 13th. So lucky Friday the 13th.
Yeah, wow. It's an omen. But
yeah.
I'll be down there. I'll be down there saying hello to the final crew. But okay, moving on. I got a couple fun ones we'll end off with here. Please just have fun with these. If you could come up with a jungle Mount Rushmore. You're familiar with Mount Rushmore, right?
Yep.
So we're going to do 4 faces, but for jungle music. Which 4 faces do you put up there?
I know you've asked people 100 times this question, and probably should have thought about it more. But, oh, man.
Just have fun. That's what I mean, though. Some people get there like, I can't do it. I can't name 4. Come on.
No. I think I'm going to try 4 very different directions, just for the hell of it. So, Marcus Intellect,
Okay.
I think, got to be up there.
Rest in peace.
To say that his music hasn't touched somebody, or there's someone out there that his music hasn't touched, this is probably more accurate. I think that would be very hard to believe that would be true. Um, so take him, put him on one side. I think put Andy C on another one, not because, like, let's be honest, the guy is unbelievable, but he's also kind of that rock star of jungle drum and bass per se, right? And he took things to a different level. He was, he's the one that's bringing that sound to the festivals, where the festival's all house and techno and whatever else and dubstep, and then you've got Andy C, right? He's the one drum and bass DJ. So maybe because of him, we're able to pull people from other scenes and get them interested, right? Mm-hmm. So, throw him up there.
So we got Andy C, and we got Marcus
Intellect. I'll throw Lion Dub up there just for the hell of it, because North America love. The guy is an absolute monster in what he's trying to do and what he has been doing. He's bringing that culture back to jungle, whereas you have Jump Up, you have this and that, and that's all good, and everyone knows it. But this is a guy that's pulling reggae artists out of Jamaica and putting them on albums and merging those cultures again like they used to be 15, 20 years ago. I think his heart is really, truly in the right place. He truly cares about what he's doing, and he's relentless about it. Like, talk to the guy for a little bit, right? And he's just a wealth of knowledge. So, throw some love North America way. And the last one?
Once again, Lion Dub, September 28th, One Loft.
Yeah, there you go. I swear you're not paying me to say that. I don't know. Gotta go. Yeah, basically. Hey, they kill me on this. Let's give it to Randall.
Randall! He's been on at least 10 of my Mount Rushmores. At least. That guy's probably the most common one, I'd say.
And, I don't know, do I need to justify it? I don't think so.
Not at all. You know what's interesting to me, though, is honestly, I think he is the most named name, and I don't know if it's because saying Andy C is cliche, but to me, if you ask me...
It is super cliche, right?
I guess that's why Randall gets more Mount Rushmore love than Andy, but I don't know. If I had to pick one, if I could only pick one, it would be Andy. The two that get left off a lot, and I can't believe it, are Hype and Ronnie Size. I don't think one person's ever named either of them. I don't know. I have to go back through my tapes, but they're amazing. But not on the list. It seems like they don't end up in people's top 4 or 5.
But I haven't really seen, I think you don't see it so much because I haven't really seen anything from them in a while, right?
Ronnie, I think, just dropped some new stuff.
Maybe I haven't been paying attention, which is true, but...
He was here recently, too. Let's see, less than
Ronnie
a year.
Five?
Yeah. He was at...
there you go. See, I wasn't paying attention.
It was, I would say, less than a year ago. All right, final question for you. If you could put 5 items in a vault that would encapsulate our rave culture, what 5 items would you put in that vault?
Jesus. I'd have to put, stuff from today or from yesteryear.
It's up to you, man. Just think about it. In 25,000 years, they're going to dig up this vault, and we want them to know what the rave once was, whether it's from today or from yesteryear. It's up to you.
You know what? It's got to be one of the flyers from, the 90s. One of those flyers where, you come out of the party and everyone's handing you something that's, the size of a postcard or whatever, right? That's cool. But then you get that one flyer that folds out into, 4 pages, and you're just like, holy shit. And, then they've got boxes of these things. We all know what it costs to print that. But there was some really nice artwork on some of them. Some of them were just, that culture's lost too now, where you don't come out of a party and you have to run that gauntlet of 50 guys and girls, jamming flyers in your hand and opening up your bag and stuffing them in there, hoping that you read them, right? And everyone's hyping up their event for next weekend or the weekend after or whatever else. So you gotta be a flyer or two, like something big.
I gotta say, we did one once, which was a triple open, and it was made from, I don't know, it was huge, man. I should actually get one and show it to you because I think you'd be impressed. Dubcom had done the artwork, and
oh yeah.
And we did spend. I think we spent $700 just printing those. And I remember I cheaped out on the actual. Like I let them do the crease, but I didn't pay for the fold. So we had to manually like get these things out and do the double fold. But the paper had at least already been creased for us.
Right.
But yeah, it's like you're saving on every. And like you're describing about standing in that line of people. You never knew who you were going to stand next to either. Like I stood next to some of the coolest guys. And around 3-4 in the morning, you're seeing people getting thrown out of the club. And I remember they'd have the paddy wagon right next to the club, and you'd see people just coming out, going right into the paddy wagon. And then eventually the bar would close and everyone come pouring out. And it was, like you say, we were like salesmen out there trying to be louder or wittier than the guy in front of us so that you remembered our party or you remembered our promoter.
That's it, right?
Yeah, man, those were fun days. But I love that. Okay, so one old school classic 4-page fold-out flyer. Love it.
Yeah.
That's one.
Gotta have that. If we're preserving rave culture in general, not just like jungle drum and bass culture, I'd have to go with some sort of article of clothing, probably like fat pants or something, because they were just the most ridiculous things ever. They made no sense. They got ripped to shit. They were always way too long. You needed like 3 belts to keep them on you, and these 70-inch, things that you could fit a family of 4 in each leg.
There was never 70-inch. I remember 36-inch was the biggest I ever had.
No way, dude. I'm sure I saw someone with like 70-inch.
70-inch.
Like 70-inch bottoms. I'm not even joking. Like a couple days ago online, that they're like, holy shit, look what I found in like my closet or whatever. There were definitely huge bottoms.
They look like they're floating, actually. I remember back in those days, and people would get all the crap on them. So they'd like have what looked like sweat going from the bottom up, but it was just all the crap from the floor.
Yeah, all the spilt water and
beer and garbage. Yeah, exactly. All that garbage all over their leg. Oh yeah, I remember that shit, dude.
There's no way. Like I tried explaining it to someone a couple of weeks ago, like kind of like what the old days were like. It's like you go out to whatever club, you go to the what's it called, Docks, Rebel or whatever now, and you go to any of these like big clubs and you think, okay, you jam a bunch of people in there. You don't have that corner where there's literally 1.5 inches, 2 inches of goo on the floor. And it's like, it's matted out flyers and napkins and beer and water and fuck, who knows what.
Some K'd out guy in a K-hole.
Yeah, there's a whole, there's 30 people sitting in the corner all mashed out of their minds. You'll never see that again. I don't think ever.
Can we throw one of them into the vault, actually? One of those mashed out?
Yeah, maybe not. Let's just put a picture of them. That was it. There was one of the other things. One of the craziest things I ever remember was you go out to an event, it'd be 11 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, and you're you kind of get groove on, everyone's dancing, you go to the bathroom, hang a leak, and you come back, and then all of a sudden the party's ramped. And you're like, holy shit, how did this happen in 5 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was, you had this insane, population of these Asian kids that would just show up. And no one really knew who they were. But, they would just be going crazy for 3-4 hours. And then there'd be these puddles of these kids all over the floor. It just mashed out of their mind. And then you go to the bathroom again at 4 or 5 in the morning. And you come back and then they're just all gone. And you're like, do they travel in packs? What is going on? Do you remember that?
Sounds like Space Nightclub to me. That's what, when you were just
right?
So honestly, when you were describing it, I'm like, that sounds like space, a very specific spot. and yeah, what the Asian thing that you're describing is what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
and it wasn't like that's not like that's certainly not a comment about Asian people or anything of that nature, right? Like it was definitely
Do
not.
they
something I'm
travel
proud
in packs? I don't. Here's the thing. I have some Asian
But
friends. I will talk to them and ask them about this, and I'll say, "Hey guys, back in the day, we used to notice you flocked into parties together and then flocked away. How the fuck did that happen?"
But it was true. Like, I honestly, I don't know if they knew each other or what the deal was. Like, I'm guessing for what everyone's age was at that time, they were probably university kids that came to Toronto to study, and they just found this as their outlet for fun and entertainment. And hey, like all the better.
Well, they love to dance too. I remember the Asians describing what you were just saying with the. I remember they used to dump water on the ground so that they could move quicker.
Yeah, they can fly. Yeah, absolutely. I learned that trick watching them, right?
Yeah.
You dump a little bit of water just so your feet can kind of be a little more slippery. You can dance better. But that was it. Like, they came out, they just went wild, and then they were just gone. And then there was, like, the rest of everyone. Like, we were the ones that were walking out at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, rubbing our eyes, going, oh, my God, what the hell, right? And then you go do it next weekend, and sure enough, same shit.
They were just smarter than us, man. The Asians are just smarter than us. They knew that it was time to go home if they were going to wake up and do something productive the next day. And
right.
We just
be fucked for the next 24 hours. Right.
Look, give me another pill, man. The sun's coming up. Like, fuck.
Oh, like, but that was the thing. Like, at the time, I lived in Ajax, right? Like, for those that don't know, that's basically a bedroom community, 30 minutes east of the city, by car, anyways. And so, like, when the parties went to 7 or 8 in the morning, that was perfect for me because I would leave the party. I'd go back, find my way back to Union Station somehow, and then I'd catch the 9:13 train home. That was the first train back east. And sure enough, there you go. You catch that 9:13, get into Ajax for 10. I'd go home, sleep for an hour, wake up, and then I'd go to work for noon till 5. And I'd just be completely out of it. Like, I'd just be dying to get through that day. But it was worth it. And then you come home Sunday night and you eat dinner and you just go right to bed and hope the hell that you wake up Monday morning with some semblance of rested.
The thing I love about that story is...
I was also, 19 or 20 at the time. I was indestructible. I couldn't do that now.
No, you're too old for that now. But what I was going to say is there's a guy I know who still does party like that and is a school bus driver. And he's told me stories like the one you just described, but when he says, and then I just went to work, I'm like, and then you just went and drove the school bus?
Yeah, what?
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, dude. And he does. He's like, yeah, I was out until 4 in the morning. I got home, only slept for an hour. And then I had to go to work. I'm like, you drive children. Yeah, so. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, this is just dangerous. And I'm not going to say that person's name. I think we've got two items so far. We've got a flyer.
2 more.
Sorry,
all right, we got flyers. We got flyers, fat pants.
Flyers. We said a picture of the passed out cake
yeah,
card.
sure. Picture of the just what it was like, because that was the stuff you don't see, and you can go and you can Google rave culture and you see the crowds and you see the lasers and lights and stuff like that, but you don't kind of see that other side of things, which I think we kind of conveniently want to forget, I guess. All right, so what else we got? There's got to be an actual mixtape, like an actual tape, like a tape pack maybe, right? Where you go to Numb or you go to Play-D or you go wherever and you buy that $80 tape pack from a party that was 6 or 8 cassettes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd wear
the Helter Skelter or Innovation.
Sure, yeah. Once in a while there'd be ones from overseas, and those were kind of like that. Those prized possessions. They were always just a little bit. They were always way more expensive. But you'd have a party in Toronto, and they do tape packs, and God only knows how terrible the sound quality was on some of it because they recorded it on a VHS tape at the party. And then dubbed it onto cassettes, and God, but you still paid $10 or $15 a tape and you wear the shit out of it as your Sony Walkman for the next 2 years, right? You listen to it nonstop.
Sound
So,
Clash too, to be honest. I remember having the Brocky Shabba D tape,
sure.
and it was. I think they did it properly because it was actually a really good quality. To this day, I think that guy who's got the Rave Mix website, Toronto Rave Mixes.
Oh, is that the same guy?
No, I don't. I don't know. To be honest, all I know is he's got that recording up there, and when I listen to it today, it still stands up. And it's like that's
the
the
Toronto Mixtape Archive or something like that, I think it's called.
something like that. It's amazing. I'm so happy that person, whoever you are, get in contact with me. I've tried reaching out to him. I'd love to interview him, but thank you for building that archive because you can go there and just listen to our history. It's amazing.
It really is, though. And, like, I think that's an excellent starting point for anyone that's coming in. Like, go listen to that stuff. Or even new DJs. Like, and I'm just as guilty of this as probably the next person. But, like, if you're a new DJ for whatever genre it is, go back to those archives, listen to them, right? Like, understand the music that was there, and it'll probably give you a better appreciation for what's coming out today and why some of the tunes of today are so important, or like the sounds that used to be. Like I said, I'm just as guilty of that as the next guy. Like I do listen to old stuff, but I didn't take the time to really understand it. I just kind of played the tunes that I liked at the time. But once I started understanding where things came from, I had much more appreciation for the actual music I was playing.
Totally.
So yeah, mixtape. What else? We got one more. Culture. Flyers, clothes, picture, mixtape.
Always gets hung up on the last one. You can put
Yeah,
anything,
we
man.
can hung up the last one, right? 'Cause you don't want to leave something out, but at the same time.
Analysis paralysis.
If it's going to be Toronto rave culture, I'm going to go with what would quickly turn into a moldy smart drink. Remember those? The liquid adrenaline.
Yeah, liquid adrenaline.
Smart drink booth?
Yeah.
And that's how they started, like selling fruit smoothies like in the corner of some party.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's old school reference right there.
You wouldn't know about that unless you were there.
Well,
yeah,
or you listen to my podcast, because I actually learned that myself when interviewing MC Flipside. We went down the liquid adrenaline rabbit hole, and yeah, I think he was the one who first told me. He's like, yeah, they were a drink company. That's why the name was Liquid Adrenaline. I'm like,
yeah.
He's like, yeah, they used to go to raves and sell fruit drinks.
It was George and someone else. It's Tiras.
I met George at Timeless a couple months ago.
Yeah, he's doing a hell of a lot with himself these days. They were selling. He was like going to Booster Juice or whatever today, but they had that at the party, and you're like, yeah, man, okay, there's strawberries and banana, and I'll do this, and like it was just what you needed. It was like this boost of your sugars and energy to get you going, and like if you're partying from like 9 or 10 p.m. until 7 or 8 in the morning, yeah. And
you're not on acid, cocaine, or ecstasy.
Yeah, you're not like pumped full of whatever drugs. You gotta eat at some point, and those things are lifesavers.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, I'm gonna wrap off and say goodbye to the listeners, but I want to stay on the phone with you. Okay, so stay on the phone here.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, that was him, DJ Tranzit, the man behind T.Dot Love. Like I said, there will be a link down below so you can tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. As always, I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed chatting. And until next time, peace out.